so now that NaNoWriMo is over, I can make some videos. So on the website Goodreads, which if you aren't a part of, you should be because it is the best website on the internet. Anyway, you can set a challenge for how many books you want to read in the year, and I set the challenge at the beginning of the year that I wanted to read 50 books before the year is over. And even though Goodreads does not think that I'm going to read 50 books this year because it doesn't think that rereads count as reading a book, but I do, because I read the book, even if I've read it before. Anyway, there's no way to keep track of it on there, so it thinks I'm not going to finish, but I am. But anyway, what I decided I want to do for videos in December is that I'm going to do short reviews of all the books that I've read this year. Not one per video, obviously, because that would mean 50 videos in 31 days, and no. So that is going to start right now, so let's get into it. I'm going to go in as good as chronological order as I can, according to what Goodreads says. I think it'll just be interesting to go through the year and see how things changed as I read different things. Goodreads says that the first book I read this year was Mockingjay. I was kind of late to the Hunger Games bandwagon. I remember when Mockingjay came out, everyone was talking about it and I didn't know very much about it at all. So I only read Hunger Games in September or October of last year, and then I waited for a while before getting Mockingjay, but I think I'm one of the few people who thinks that Mockingjay is perfect in almost every way. Like, yes, it did make me very angry at the end, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I don't think books are in the business of making people happy. I also think that The Hunger Games in general is kind of stereotyped as this story about, like, Katniss who leads a rebellion and everyone loves rebellions and revolutions because they're exciting and they make you root for the underdog, but that's not what they're about at all. I think that The Hunger Games is just about war and how unfair it is to everyone involved and how it generally makes things horrible and how horrible people become in war. And in that way, I think it revealed that truth extremely well. And it really hit home, and I loved Mockingjay a whole lot. I don't know if it would be my favorite in the series, just because the first one is usually my favorite in the series because it's the one that got me into it, but it is a phenomenal book, and I'm always going to stick by that opinion. The second book listed on my Goodreads is Plan B by Lester Brown, and it is a school book for my AP Environmental Science class last year, and yes, I am including school books in these reviews and in my 50 books for the year. I have to preface this by saying that AP Environmental Science was the worst class my senior year. It was just really unpleasant. Like, I hated going to class and I hated everything about it, and this book was not our textbook, but it was just this other book that we read, and we would have quizzes on it sometimes that were open book and really easy to not have read beforehand and then get 100 on the quiz. It was a real grade booster. It's hard to say that I read the entire book, but I skimmed each chapter for a few minutes. Book number 3 is Geektastic, which is a collection of young adult authors who wrote stories about being a nerd, basically. It's really difficult for me to review a book of short stories because obviously there are a lot of different pieces in it by different people, and I liked some of them a whole lot and some of them I didn't care about at all. But there were a lot of really well-known YA authors in there, like Cassie Clare and Holly Black and people like that. And in general, I'm glad I read it, and I wish I read more short stories. That is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And I really enjoyed that this book featured a lot of teenagers that were a lot more similar to me in their activities than a lot of teenagers I see in either books or movies or anything. So that was just refreshing in general. So if you're into young adult literature and being a nerd, then you should probably read this book.